All right. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for the opportunity to speak with all of you again today. So if I can please call up on stage each of the panelists to come up here. Ehab, Gabe, Mr. Yousof, Ms. Hana, and we will do introductions as you come up on stage. All righty. So, ladies and gentlemen, as Samir has introduced this panel, we're here to talk about a very important topic called cyber warfare and the impact on critical infrastructure. Now, today, across multiple presentations, we saw that people have referred to the fact that the kind of breaches that are happening to organizations in the kingdom and globally absolutely must be considered cyber warfare. It's no longer just ransomware, or cyber threats, or cyber attacks, but it's war. So we need to jump into this, and this is the relevance of this key concept that we're going to talk about today, right? Which is CNI. And we'll go into more detail about that, but first maybe we'll start with a round of introductions. So I'm going to ask each of you, please, if I may, one by one, to just quickly introduce yourselves and with your name and your backgrounds, and then we'll jump into the list of questions and start having this very important dialogue. We can start maybe with Ms. Hana. If you could just quickly introduce yourself, and then we'll jump into the rest.
Sure. Welcome all. Glad to be here today. Hana AlZahrani, Head of Threat Intelligence and Forensics at one of the financial entity in Saudi Arabia. 7 years experience in cybersecurity, defense and offense, and master degree in network systems.
Thank you. Thank you. Welcome to the panel, Ms. Hana. Mr. Yousof.
Assalamu alaikum. Can you hear me? Yes, okay.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you for having us today, and thank you for very informative sessions and presentations. Yousof Radi, 20 years experience in from mainframe to legacy infrastructure to distributed system to cybersecurity and integration. And I have 2 master degree in computer science and executive MBA, working in Saudi Logistics Services. It's a part of Saudi Airlines Group.
Welcome. Thank you, Mr. Yousof. Ehab.
First, thank you so much for letting us for this beautiful session. So my name is Ehab Nour. I'm a pre-sales consultant at Tripwire. This is my current position. I have more than 15 years experience in cybersecurity. I was started in Egypt, then I moved to Saudi Arabia, so I have a different experience and different culture in the partners and then distributors, and then lastly in the Tripwire.
Excellent. Thank you, Ehab. And last but not least, Mr. Gabe.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I'm Gabe Goldhirsh. I'm the Vice President for the Middle East and APAC at Zerofox. I've been working in the Middle East probably for the past 6.5 years in cybersecurity. Prior to that, long history actually working in signals intelligence, which I think today we call cybersecurity. And so very excited to be on the panel and to bring a little bit of a Zerofox-centric perspective to the conversation.
Thank you. Thank you, Gabe. So ladies and gents, for those of you that don't know me, my name is Avinash Advani. I'm the founder and CEO at a company called CyberKnight Technologies. We have a stand in the back over here for those of you that have been by or have not been by, and we'd love to see you there later. CyberKnight is a 100% cybersecurity focused cybersecurity advisory and value-added distribution company. And we focus on this very important topic that was just talked about in the last session called Zero Trust Security. Very important topic. We'll delve into some more detail around that in the panel today as well. And we have built a market-leading portfolio of cybersecurity vendors that tell the Zero Trust Security story. But today is not about CyberKnight. It's about the wonderful panelists that we have here today. And the topic is really cyber warfare and the impact on CNI. So let's jump into it. Today we have 2 representatives from the end user customer base in very high profile organizations in Saudi. And at the same time, we have 2 high profile cybersecurity vendor representatives as well to bring the topic really from a holistic point of view. So let's jump into it. Now, the concept of CNI. Let's talk about CNI. I mean, the theme, we all see it, cyber fusion, converging cyber intel, right? Critical network infrastructure for IT, OT, and IoT. But CNI is an acronym that can mean different things to different people. So let's start from an end user perspective and understand what it means to Ms. Hana and Mr. Yousof. Starting with Mr. Yousof, some people call it critical national infrastructure. Others call it critical network infrastructure, which it is both. But in both cases, it is critical infrastructure that is important to government organizations, and it describes the assets that are essential for the functioning of society and economy. Now, based on your extensive cybersecurity background, Mr. Yousof, how do you define CNI?
In a simple way, it's any impact on the system availability, unauthorized access to the data or the confidential information, or even the process that could impact the company reputations, or could impact impact it financially, or expose human security or life to danger. So we call it critical system. So it's a critical infrastructure, critical network infrastructure. At the end, it's a critical. It's a critical systems.
Excellent, thank you. And Ms. Hana, you're coming from although end user, for a different world of the end user point of view. How do you look at CNI what is CNI to you, and what do you think is that CNI journey that customers need to be taking?
From my point of view, it means critical national infrastructure. Meanwhile, network is an essential component of cybersecurity that transmits data inside or outside the organization. So I would like to add a quote here. If you know your enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles. Which means if you understand your network, the data flow, you can stand against any cyber attack. And for the definition of critical infrastructure, it will be based on the organization itself, the critical asset they have, and also the type of hosted data they also have, the criticality of these information.
Okay, excellent. So whether it be financial information, whether it be logistics, airlines, it's all critical to the nation and to governments, and therefore it is a pretty broad spectrum then of what is considered critical infrastructure. So just to continue on that question before jumping to the next point, now securing CNI cannot be an easy task, right? Because targeted attacks on critical national infrastructure are becoming more and more common every day. I have to use this example one more time, but we've all spoken about the Colonial Pipeline attack so many times today. But nobody wants to be another statistic like Colonial Pipeline. Now, in alignment with the Kingdom's Vision 2030, the NCA have been working really diligently to develop best-of-breed standards to protect the nation from cyber warfare. But from a local organization perspective, you both represent, where should your colleagues and peers, other organizations, where should they begin their journey to secure CNI? Because it's clearly a journey. Mr. Yousof.
It's very challenging. Usually, as a cybersecurity, we talk with the IT infrastructure, IT applications, those your customers. But from bring your own device and COVID-19, we start talking with the other, like with the finance team, with the, if we are talking about the critical infrastructure or OT, we start talking with the PMO, not IT PMO, facility management PMO. So we start talking with other peers that in the previous year, we don't know them. So the communication become very critical part here, that you have to talk with the people that from where revenue come. Your revenue come from your operation.
100%.
Yes. So you have to talk with them. So when we talk with them, they don't know cybersecurity. So I like the last session for the awareness and training, and it become very hot topic in the organization, and the organization culture like it. My colleague, they came to me asking, when is the next training? When is the next awareness? When is the next? So,
excellent.
So the people like it because it touched their life.
So this is the convergence of business and IT.
Yes.
Or business and security.
Yeah. So as a cybersecurity, we step into the business operation, to the level of people that maybe they don't have email. But the problem here with the business requirement, with the industry 4.0, some vendors start making their application more open. It was OT closed.
Yes.
closed system, closed network. But now they have application on app.
صح.
And the operator or our colleague on the field, he don't have email, so I'm safe here. But he have the application on his Android or his iPhone, and he can like update the database of the warehouse, update the database of information of the shipment of from his phone. I was discussing with my colleague that is the iPhone, even if you apply mobile application management to secure your email, shared drives or this, is it still secure? Because I'm not admin on his phone.
Sure.
He can download whatever he wants. So one of my colleagues, he opened Wi-Fi and allow his employee to log in to this Wi-Fi. Suddenly, we have 4 malicious IP traffic from this phone.
Oof.
So those phones could use for operation.
100%.
So and I cannot tell the business, no, stop, don't use, because we have to secure it somehow.
Definitely.
Yeah, and maybe here the cloud app security and ZTNA came in the picture to secure the other end. خلاص, this is real. You cannot stop the operation. The people, they will bring their own devices. You have limited admin on it, but you can secure your application from the other end.
Excellent.
So you have to understand.
So you really have to look at it across the entire tech estate.
Yes.
I mean, okay. Thank you, Mr. Yousof. So just moving on to, one of the other very, very important topics these days, right, which is around threat intelligence, right? Now, today, right, when you look at threat intelligence, it's important to understand the role of threat intelligence, right, in protecting CNI, critical network infrastructure, right? It's important to understand how you share threat intelligence across the private sector, across the public sector, through public-private partnerships. Gabe first, and then we'll move on to Ms. Hana here. Gabe, from your perspective, you're looking at it from let's say, a threat intelligence vendor point of view. How important is the role of threat intelligence in protecting CNI?
Yeah, thank you very much. So look, I think that I'll overload the abbreviation CNI. It's really critical national infrastructure from a Zerofox perspective. If you look at what the Crown Prince is trying to achieve with Vision 2030, it's about migrating from oil-only economy to an economy that's based on construction, real estate development, mining, all types of other vertical markets. And so the idea is, how do you actually achieve that? It's not just building up network infrastructure. It's about making the situation seem solid enough so that you can get other investors into these vertical markets, other expertise from all over the world, to contribute to building the actual end state of 2030. And so it's important to ensure that the brand and the reputation of these organizations are protected as we go through this building phase that we're in right now. And so from a Zerofox-centric perspective, what we're highly focused on is ensuring that the reputation of these of the organizations that operate inside the kingdom are attractive to outside investors. They're attractive to other teams of companies that will help actually build that end state.
Okay, brilliant. That's great. And Ms. Hana, from a end user point of view, or let's say from your point of view, given that you're coming from this threat intelligence background as well, what do you think is the role of threat intelligence in CNI, in protecting CNI?
As said, the best defense is a good offense. So understanding the infrastructure, also sharing the feeds between organizations will support as a proactive step to secure any asset the organization that could have. Also using the TTP technical technique and procedure from previous attack to close the gap, close the risk that we have. Also sharing IOC's indicator of compromise between companies or organization within the same function or different function also will support the organization to have the upper hand than the attacker, protect themselves as a proactive measurement strategy to have the best security defense and controls they need.
Excellent. Thank you. So, I mean, I like the fact that you're using a lot of Sun Tzu Art of War quotes, because it's directly related to cyber warfare. And, it's very interesting. Staying on threat intelligence for a second, Gabe, governments around the world obviously have been, have very sophisticated collection systems. There's a lot of tools, a lot of capabilities. And frankly, the people in this room have some of the best trained intelligence people in the world, right? So, there are a lot of tools out there. We know threat intelligence is important to support CNI. It's clearly like in war, the more intelligence you have, the better you can defend against the attacker. But why do they also need private sector vendors? And, what is fundamentally important about the private sector vendors' capabilities within threat intelligence so that allows them, frankly, to save time from, sifting through alerts as things are happening in their environment? How can they be more proactive?
Yeah, I mean, look, in a simple word, so I spent 17 years working in the US government. One simple word is sharing. US government, we failed in many instances, even lining up to 9/11, in the fact that we didn't share. And what happens is inside governments is that they become kingdoms of their own little rice paddies, and they lack the opportunity. They don't take advantage of the opportunity to share intelligence to help out the greater cause. Now, the reason why private industry is so effective internationally is because we are motivated by profit, and we become more interesting to our customers because we have visibility across what's going on across the entire globe. And so, in a very unique position at the company I'm at right now, we support governments all over the world. When we find interesting intelligence, we make it available on the platform so that it doesn't benefit just the Chileans, it can benefit the Saudis just as equally. And so this is something unique that private industry can deliver to any government.
Excellent. Yeah, and I mean, you see that, the NCA and other authorities and regulatory authorities are leveraging threat intelligence to definitely help the local organizations within their sector. And I can see the relevance. Now, threat intelligence is one key part and one key control, let's call it, in CNI. But, Ehab, CNI is typically associated with large networks composed of IT, OT, and IoT, as we've seen in the theme of the event. Now, organizations that have these complex environments need to ensure that they have, proper configurations, credentials that are not default, traffic that is flowing north to south, east to west properly, application traffic that is not visible to unauthorized users or applications, and many other policies and controls. There's so many, right? So, but we found, like the Colonial Pipeline, not to refer to them again, but some of the foundational security was not in place, which is why they got breached by ransomware. So when you don't have foundational security in place for CNI, you have an attack. So what would you say, Ehab, from your perspective? What are the fundamental controls, foundational controls needed to secure CNI from your point of view?
Okay, so the foundational security controls, it's having some technical controls, like for an example, the asset management, the network segmentation, the change control, centralized log management. And we see the customers, most of the customers, that they are looking for above layer that's to implement more than these technologies like EDR solutions and XDR and so on. But they're missing the foundational security control. One of them, it's a change control. So the change control, that's just to give an introduction, that's people just thinking about if there is something happen in any server or any in any application, it should be a malicious or it should be legitimate. No, there is a big gray area. It's called unauthorized changes. Maybe it's happening. So it can affect, for an example, if I am an internal employee and I have changed something in my critical, for an example, router or switch, maybe I can affect the operation of my data. Okay, I can, for an example, change some configuration in the Active Directory. I can give someone permissions. I'm an authorized person, but I have authorized someone, which is maybe you, for an example, Avinash, and you don't have authorization to access these files or these applications and so on. So change control need to be implemented, need to be tracked, You need to know every change happen in your critical infrastructure in order to build a security control. Because when you see the holistic view, you need to know what's exactly the baselines of your critical infrastructure and what's the current state. So the current state came from the change control. So I have a baseline, so I have every modification, it's tracked, it's monitored, so I know what's my current baseline right now, and I know who done this change, what exactly is the change.
And maybe revert back the change.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, 100%.
I think it's fundamental because this having the visibility of what changes occurred anywhere in the environment also
Yes.
gives you the perspective that if something changes, why did it change?
Why is it changed?
Right?
Yeah.
Maybe that's what the attacker has come in to do.
Yes.
Right?
Can I roll back? Yes, this is the case.
Create a vulnerability by changing a router configuration
Yes.
or a switch configuration that gives them access to a port that they
100%.
didn't have access to before.
100%.
So fundamental.
Yes.
Mr. Yousof, what do you think? So we spoke before about the journey of securing CNI, right? Clearly, threat intelligence is a piece of that. Clearly, change auditing is a piece of that. How do you see? Because I'm sure our colleagues here in this room must be wondering, Yani, so many tools, controls, security. I mean, there's, you go around this room and there's so many players. How do they progress and begin that journey? And what does it look like to secure CNI?
This is two scenarios. If you have greenfield or new, or your business planning to build new critical infrastructure, migrating to cloud or new warehouse or factory, then security need to be engaged from design phase to make sure that all controls is there. But this is the easy scenario. If you have old infrastructure, 15 years old, 20 years old or something, Windows XP, Windows 7, Millennium, CE, something like this,
Sahih.
Red Hat 5, or vulnerability management will not help you here.
Okay.
Batching, not supported.
Okay.
Yes.
So you have to look in another area here.
Beyond.
Yeah, beyond this. Look at the human safety and security. So this is a restricted area. Nobody going. Only authorized people. Whitelist, zero trust.
MashaAllah.
So nothing trusted in this area. Review the factory setting for each systems. If it is Honeywell, APP, or whatever, what is the type of traffic they want? Allow this only, anything else, remove it. I recommend not to open email or even join the domain. This machines, make it separate for only one purpose, just to SCADA or just to admin work related to this function.
Sure.
So make it zero trust, totally as you did, because you cannot do
Least
anything.
privilege.
Least privilege, zero privilege.
Zero.
Zero privilege. Also the Wi-Fi, make it totally separate. The whole network. This is the only solution that you have, because if you want to open it, you have to put all controls. But if it is closed as previous days, and here you have to negotiate with the operation team, and they want to allow mobile device, they want to allow bring your own device, and this is will open the surface attack. So
Okay.
yeah, this is need to be clear. And
So you limit the attack
register it
surface. Sorry.
and register it in enterprise risk. Yes,
Have clear visibility into the
yeah,
risk.
this is risk. This is we have to live with it, and خلاص. This is your business. This is the situation, but make sure it's registered.
Excellent. Okay, good. So you mentioned a couple of things just now. Actually, multiple times it's been mentioned. I think Ms. Hana mentioned it, Mr. Yousof mentioned it. You talked about the human factor, and you talked about the training and the awareness. You said people like it, and I think you also referenced it earlier. You know, CNI as a concept, right? Critical infrastructure, has almost always been related in some way to the nation state, at almost like a national level, right? Because whether it's oil and gas, or whether it's telco, or whether it's logistics, or whether it's finance, you know, they all contribute to critical infrastructure, right? In some way. Now, the citizen, or the resident, or the employee, all the same, right? The human. They must have some role to play in helping to secure the nation's CNI. Because as an employee or as a resident, as a citizen, you have a fiduciary responsibility to be part of this security. How relevant is security awareness to how important is security awareness for the individual to help securing CNI? Ms. Hana.
It's play a huge role by aware the employees or the individual how to protect their organization asset information or even their private data. There is an initiative from Saudi Bank called خليك حريص or be careful not to post any personal information regarding their private or confidential information regarding bank account or their financial statement. But in general, these initiatives should be available by any organization to their employees. Just because if any employee posts information or click a link, it will destroy everything in the organization from defense perspective. So it's really important to educate people and aware them about what is the critical information or what is the classification of information and how it will be impact the organization back. The attacker can use this information to use it against the organization if they are targeting a specific attack or specific user in that organization.
100%. I mean, if you think about what you just said, right? You have an employee sitting in an organization who might be aware because you've trained him. Right? You've trained the guy, you've got or girl, a woman. You've given them security awareness and training, and they're aware. They go home. They turn on their laptop. They're connected to their home network. Their kids are also connected to that home network. And maybe the kids are playing video games or, and accessing video game sites maybe potentially, and something else that's unrelated to the work environment completely could be accessed that could be potentially compromised. Just being on that network potentially, right, could then impact the device that's connected from a work perspective. So it's really taking security awareness and training beyond the organization, beyond the employee, really to the citizen or the resident of that country, and looking at it on an individual human level, right? What do you think, Mr. Yousof? I mean, you mentioned this a couple of times, so I want to hear your perspective.
Yes, for business owner, personal device, it is not personal anymore, totally, because he have maybe some document on it. If it is laptop, he have email, WhatsApp communication. So some of your business in user device. We make one-time agreement with our endpoint security to take license to our as a personal for personal use. So to make sure that all our employee have personal license for endpoint.
Nice.
So it is like social responsibility from organization to its employee and family. So
this is definitely a best practice. First time I've heard this. Excellent.
You have to do this because in home, all IoT devices, it's as a factory set, not patch, not updated.
And the company can never control that because it's completely out of scope.
Yeah, and the problem with the IoT devices, it is not designed as a secure way. It is for personal use, home use, or something like this. It is not for business use.
Sure.
Yeah. So mixing between personal use and business use here make the conflict, and the cybersecurity will be playing how you allow this and this. And the problem for technical people here know that maybe some compromise in the laptop or something, privilege swap or something, you cannot trigger it
100%.
until it acts.
Right.
And we don't want to act inside the network. So And the other thing, for personal life also, his family health, his mind health, it will also impact
Of course.
the business.
Definitely.
Yeah, so it is not one way, it is two-way.
Excellent. I never thought about that. The psychological impact of
Yeah.
getting breached from something that happens at home and how that can impact a person's ability to deliver within a work environment. It's
Like the Iranian nuclear, when they couldn't attack the nuclear Iranian, they make social engineering on the engineer they work there, until one of them opened the laptop in a coffee shop.
sure.
Then they entered,
Attack surface.
they attack they open back door in the laptop and leave it. Once he go to the factory, he open the laptop and they get in. So it is and you have to look at it from both way, from business owner and from social responsibility also.
Excellent. Let me take it one step further now, and let's take the employee, the citizen, the resident, personally, the human, fundamentally important. But just take it one level of abstraction higher. Gabe had mentioned before, you talked about the importance of digital risk, or as brand reputation. So now we've talked about the individual. Let's elevate to the company level, right? You talked about this a little bit earlier today, but why is it, similarly to an individual then getting compromised, an organization within the kingdom or wherever in the world getting compromised because they don't take their brand reputation or their digital risk seriously, that could potentially have a significant impact on CNI. Am I not
That's
mistaken?
absolutely correct. Yeah, just as I said earlier, at a macro level, when you don't protect your reputation, you can't get outside investment. Just also on a micro level, when we talk about the average Saudi citizen, if they don't have faith or confidence as consumers in their banks, in their retail outlets, because there's constant data breaches against their information, their usernames, their passwords, their bank account information, if they can't secure those things, then that business will essentially suffer and disappear. Because the reality is, in today's society, it's no longer, I think when we were kids, it was buyer beware. Now the mentality of the enterprises needs to be aware of buyer. And so they need to protect their reputation. They need to ensure that their critical assets inside the company, of their consumers, of their business partners, is bulletproof to ensure that that business can maintain their consumer base.
Excellent. So that awareness, let's say, is not just at a level of the individual, but it absolutely is pervasive to the organization as well. And I think, if I may say, digital risk protection or brand protection is also a fundamental control when it comes to CNI protection, right? So, Ehab, now, today, across the day, in many presentations, many of us have talked about zero trust security. And, CyberKnight ourselves have embraced this very important topic. ForcePoint clearly have. They spoke about it just a few minutes earlier. And we've chosen this framework to build out our portfolio offering because, as Mr. Yousof said, it's fundamental to secure CNI. But why? Because every organization is progressing and proceeding with some kind of digital transformation, right? It's not only natural, it's only progressive. And so they're moving to the cloud or the local cloud, and there's a journey there. They have remote working scenarios because of the pandemic. And since then, to continue maintaining remote working scenarios. But even in the US, when I'll mention this the last time, the Colonial Pipeline attack happened, okay? President Biden released an executive order that said all government entities within a very short period of time must achieve a state of zero trust security. Now, Ehab, what is your perspective on zero trust security when it comes to CNI?
Yeah. Zero trust, there is multiple reports, to be honest, in zero trust. I have read many reports for zero trust, for Gartner, Forrester Wave, and so on. But I like the idea of Forrester Wave when they speak about the zero trust strategy. And zero trust strategies became with 5 or 6 steps. We will start from them, but let's agree together, guys. That's the old model that's already we used to. It's already obsolete. So organizations in the past, they have 3 main areas inside the organization, which is the DMZ area, the internal server and users. This typical infrastructure, it's not right now. It's obsolete, to be honest.
Correct. The perimeter is now everywhere.
Yes. So when we think today about zero trust, we need to think about, again, for 5 pillars. We'll start with the data, because this is a very important. As you know, it's starting from a couple of years ago, especially in the pandemic. The data, it became everywhere. It became in your laptop, and became in your home, and became in your mobile. It became everywhere. So organizations should think about how can we secure the data, even the archive data. So you need to think about how can I control this data? How can I think about this data? How can I secure this data? Because it's everywhere. Sure. It's not in the server side, it's became everywhere. So this is number 1. So again, about the network. You need to think about your network, zero trust network. You need to think about your network.
OT network, IT network, IoT network.
Yes, 100%. So you need to apply, for an example, in the old models that companies just all applying only segmentations, the firewalling and so on. But right now there is a concept of micro-segmentation.
Zero trust micro-segmentation.
Zero trust micro-segmentation. So because there is a physical, there is a virtual, there is a cloud, so you need to think about from micro-segmentation. For an example, zero trust people. So your employees should not be trusted anymore. You need to do every day or every week security awareness sessions. You need to think about what's the identities they have inside your network. So if I am an employee right now and I have identity or I have authorization to access one of my critical applications, you need to think about this. You need to think about the authorization. You need to think about the security. What's the authentications I have to log into this critical application, so on and so on. Then it's going beyond with zero trust workloads. And to make it very easy and very simple, I'd like to focus on this part with to do a risk quantification with your workloads. You need to do a risk assessment for your workloads to see what's exactly the risk which came from which workload. So this is another thing. And then applying the threat intelligence and visibility. Then the last thing, which is the orchestration and automation. So this is all things you need to think about it. Don't think just as the old model. No, it's obsolete. Think about all of things, zero trust strategy.
Excellent. Yeah, it's a pretty extensive space. Yeah. Before we close, Mr. Yousof, just from a point of view, from your point of view, being a long-term security practitioner on the end user side, what do you think about this importance of zero trust? You mentioned already that it's fundamental to secure a CNI, but how important is it really across this? Because it's a concept we know. Yes. There's 50 different frameworks or articles and documents talking about zero trust. Which one is right? How important is it?
I will repeat again in a simple way. We cannot protect what we don't know.
We cannot protect what we don't know.
Yeah.
Or you cannot protect what you can't see.
Or I can't see. So first of all, you have to check what is your critical infrastructure. This is very important. Even small details. Sit with your operation team, go to your manufacturer, go to your warehouse, physically and check. Asset inventory, asset management, it is not practiced everywhere. Maybe it is in IT, but outside IT it is not there. So you have to build it. You have to cover it. Then check the risk of this asset. Do risk assessment, as you said, on all these assets.
Excellent.
Then put it in the risk management, enterprise risk management, and do the calculation. Likelihood, cost of impact, cost of fix.
Exactly.
Then take decision.
Is it impactful, and how often can it be attacked?
This is before ZTNA, before what. Just do your homework. Sure. Then you can take a decision, insert it in your strategy, put it in your project plan.
100%. Yeah. And actually, the zero trust journey, right, that a lot of people ask me about, what is that journey? Where do we start? Step one.
Yeah.
Where is my sensitive data and who owns it?
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And that includes CNI. Right? Where is the, as you correctly said,
Yes.
where is the critical infrastructure?
Asset is hardware, technology, and
Sure.
data, and people also. So,
Absolutely. Absolutely. Brilliant. So, Gabe, Ms. Hana, Mr. Yousof, Ehab, thank you so much for all your time today. We're pretty much at the end of the time. I just want to check with Samir or the organizers whether we can check and see if anyone has any questions for the panelists before we wrap up. I can't turn around behind me, so if someone can monitor. Samir, if you want to check if anyone has any questions from the audience. Yeah, I see one question here. If you could just let which panelist know who the question is for. There we go. Alaikum salam.
This is Iyad Awad from Forrester Research. Forrester came up with the concept of zero trust like 15 years ago.
That's right.
Nowadays, we're seeing traction on zero trust, and as you rightly mentioned, even there was an executive order by Biden
Correct.
mandating that all the governmental organizations accelerate adopting zero trust. The point is that zero trust is a data-centric framework.
Correct.
It's a totally new approach to security, where
Absolutely.
you also go to the micro-segmentation of everything, of access, of data, of networks,
Correct.
of workloads,
That's
of
right.
devices, everything. So
Yeah.
you go through a deep micro-segmentation, but the point is it is a data-centric framework.
That's right.
So as the gentleman also rightly said, that you need to look for your critical infrastructure, for your data. What are those critical data? As the world is going to, or is pushing, there is a great push towards digitalization. So basically
right.
data.
Okay. I can hear you, but no one else can. Mike, can you check? Yep. You were saying data is the lifeblood.
Organizations, be it private sector.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yes.
So to summarize for the rest of the audience, gentlemen, a very important point you just raised from Forrester, who actually defined the concept of zero trust 15 years ago. So thank you so much for that question. Basically saying that there's an explosion of data, right, due to the accelerated digital transformation that's been happening to organizations and even households around the world. And so zero trust is very much about, understanding that new perimeter now follows the data, and that is done through data-centric security, where the security follows the data itself. And that's why if you look at any zero trust framework from any of the, even though Forrester came up with it, today you look at anybody, data is always in the center in the biggest possible size.
Yeah.
Right? So I think we are out of time, Samir. Yes, so I would like to thank all the panelists. If I can ask everyone to give them all a big round of applause. Thank you very much, Gabe, Ms. Hana, Mr. Yousof, and Ehab.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Shukran.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ehab. Thank you, Ms. Hana.
Thank you very much. It was excellent.
Thank you very much. Thank you.